Hello, Lavecon. Right, you're joining me from a new location. You may realize that this is my attic. There is a rainstorm going on outside. I think it's eased off a little bit now, but it was a little bit loud earlier. Hopefully that won't come through. But you are now in, as I say, in the music studio in my house. And this is the setting from which we're going to talk about audio writing and audio writing experiences. So I'm joined on this panel by a selection of guests who have different experiences in relation to audio drama and in relation to audio texts. We want to kind of sort of go round this a little bit so that we get the experiences from several different sides, because I know that some of my guests have experience of being the performer, have experience of writing the script, have experience of being the director, doing the production, etc., etc. And I'm hoping that I can then bring a little bit of contribution by being the musician, or at least giving some ideas in relation to how you write music for audio drama, which you might see a little bit of that, hopefully a little bit later on up here in terms of what's there. So yeah, looking forward to that. And now on my screen, for some reason, we have Kevin eating. I'm hoping that it's stayed with me, but yeah, I'm sure Grant has set that up perfectly. So yeah, the plan then is to go through all of those different things and to get a chance to discuss stuff. So joining me, I have wonderful audio partner and contributor who I have worked with for quite some considerable time, which is Christopher Jarvis. Hi, Chris.
Hello. I wondered if I should take a sip of coffee. I was listening to that intro, thinking, "Is that coming to me? Am I going to be hugely offended?"
Well, I was kind of
somebody else.
I was kind of thinking that you'd get it, you know.
No. I was thinking, I was half expecting to go to Kareem, honestly.
Like the ponderous cup of tea.
My bestest. Yeah. It would have been, you know, that would have been Kareem. So yes. Joining Chris is wonderful audio actor and star of Lave Revolution as Hans Walden a few years back, which he gave me the chills when he was performing that part for us. Kareem, hi, Kareem.
Hello, everybody.
And also joining us is a new collaborator of mine, because she's decided that I can do some work for her. So I'm quite happy to do that. She's seen something in something I've done, which clearly it seems to work for her. Is author of the Dex Legacy series, which is audio, and also coming as novels, which is Emily Inkpen. Hi, Emily.
Hello. Yes, hello.
And our final guest, deputizing, but I am sure, based on what I have been told, she has even more knowledge and even more experience than the unfortunately unwell Sarah Golding, is Fiona. Fiona Thrale is here from Dashing Onions Audio, and she's going to be talking a little bit about her experiences as well. Hi, great to meet you, Fiona.
Hi, I'm so sorry that Sarah couldn't make it, but I'll try and understudy the best I can anyway.
I think you'll be absolutely fine. We are a gentle bunch, a gentle crowd. As long as you like spaceships, then everything works in here. So I'm sure it will be all right.
I'd just like to say personally that I'm very pleased to meet Fiona sort of like properly, if you like, here. Fiona, yours having been a name that I've seen several times on the, obviously with the audio drama, the podcast and the Audio Drama Hub community. So it's lovely to actually kind of sit and talk to you properly.
It's lovely to meet you. Thank you so much. It's lovely to be here.
See, I'm getting trolled comments in relation to my intros, and I should probably just explain. I do try to do my intros to such a length that it allows people to prep themselves. It is also about the fact that they are awesome people and they have so many things that I can talk about them. But I do try. Anyway, right. Let us move on in terms of what's there. Thank you, Mr. Stabler, for your able commentary. So. I've circulated some discussion points, and we're hopefully going to cover those, and we'll talk a little bit about each. But feel free to riff off of some of this. I mean, we obviously we're all experienced in terms of some of these production systems and how these things work. So if there's stuff that you think that the audience would find useful, then please do venture in and drop it into whatever we're saying. So, discussion point one, and these were circulated in advance, so everybody has had a little bit of a chance to have a think about them. What was your first and formative experience getting into audio drama? How did those experiences shape your thinking? Who wants to go first?
I mean, I can start seeing as it's on topic for Lave Radio. Although I can go a little bit back before Lave Radio, but I'll start with Lave Radio. We obviously started the podcast, and we were. Sorry, someone was just complaining about how much Vaseline I have on my laptop lens. It's possible that I opened the camera lens with a pizzery finger. That might have been what happened. No, so we started Lave Radio, and we had the idea quite early on of doing some kind of spoof adverts based on the lore that we knew from Elite and Frontier, and also based on some of the stuff in the community. One of my personal favourites was the one about the jumpers, because I really miss the fact that David Braben, when he does his video pieces, doesn't wear jumpers anymore, because I think that's a sad loss to the community. No, but I mean, I'd been into audio drama for a while, and I'd had things where I was, I guess sometimes recording audio dramas off the radio. So I'd been playing around with audio editing tools, kind of chopping those into usable formats on an MP3 player. And then we started the Lave Radio podcast, and we started putting together these spoof adverts, and we just, we recorded them, and I edited them together with whatever software I had to hand. And I suddenly realized I'd been wanting for a long time to kind of work in audio drama. And I'd been kind of looking for how on earth you would get into that and what the opportunities were. And I suddenly realized when I was putting these spoof adverts together, that I already had all the tools I needed. Like I didn't need to wait for anybody else to give me the opportunity to do it. Actually, if I just wanted to make an audio drama, I could just, start with it. And the bit that goes back before Lave Radio, I was previously involved in another online community for a game called The Movies, which was a machinima format. And I'd done a lot of kind of voice audio editing for that, because you had the ability to sort of record with actors and slot their voices in under the sort of game footage. But what I would say is, as wonderful as The Movies was, it wasn't an amazing visual format. So I personally found the machinima to be a great practice run for audio drama, because most of it, you have to carry most of it with the script. So that was that was where I came to it. And obviously then with Lave Radio, I just decided, well, I'm gonna make an audio drama. Let's do it. So we started Escape Velocity, and sort of it sort of all went from there, really.
Okay. Karim, you're next on my screen. Do you want to go?
Well, I mean, I've been an actor since like forever, doing a lot of stage, screen, a little bit of screen, and outdoor performance, doing medieval entertainment and stuff like that. Came about 2008, where I was getting sort of fairly frustrated with sort of the amateur drama scene and stuff like this. So I went to City Lit to study directing. And I did 2 years worth of directing courses there, during which time they also had an acting for radio course taught by David Goodison, who those of you who are particularly geeky may know. He was one of the voices of Davros, and a fantastic teacher and audio artist he is. Because I have this voice. People tell me I have a good voice. They tell me a lot I have a good voice. I was working in radio at the time, but in the IT side. And the radio station said, well, we need to use your voice on the radio. So I was doing all kinds of little sort of competition voices for them and stuff like this. So, well, I'm taking my acting career far more seriously. Let's look at this audio thing as well, because people like my voice. So I did that course, got myself a little demo reel out of it, and started looking at all kinds of sort of the casting sites like Star Now and Casting Call Pro and all the other ones that happen around these places. And around that time, a couple of years later, there was this strange little game that started up, a little Kickstarter called Elite Dangerous, and some fellow with moppy hair decided to write a book about it as part of the licenses. And I said, Alan, you're quite close to me, given you were teaching at Wickham College at the time. If you need somebody to record the audiobook version of that, I'd love to be involved. And Shirley said, oh, that'd be cool. Yeah, I'll get back to you. And a few months later, both Chris and Alan got back to me and said, we'd like you to do the audio drama. And so Hans Walden was born.
Do you want to be the baddie? I think was the, probably the phrase in terms of what was there.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So yeah, I'd done a few sort of minor bits and pieces before that, but that I would consider that one of my big breaks, because it was a commercial audio drama, and I mean anybody who's read the book knows how fantastic it is, and getting to play Hans Walden is just so juicy, and that gave me a platform as an actor, showing I'd taken a lead role, for want of a better phrase. I'd done a reasonably good job. I'd got to know Chris as well, because we recorded it all at Chris's studio. And it was a great way to launch my career in possibly one of the best ways of doing it, in a studio with other actors, during which time, since then, of course, I've done a lot more solo work, etc. But yeah, that was my sort of formative experiences getting into audio drama.
Fiona, you're on my screen, so I'm gonna let Emily bring up the end of the discussion point. How did you get into things? What was your formative experience?
Yeah, I was quite lucky actually. I got into audio drama quite early, when it was about 2006, 2007, and so there wasn't a lot. There weren't that many companies at the time making it in a podcast form, and I'd originally studied drama and writing as well, so I was sort of on that side of things. But I joined Independent Audio, took a few roles with them, but they suggested, do you want to learn mixing? And I think had it been now, and I'd seen all of these incredible kind of, sound designers and engineers and people from that kind of side, I probably would have said, no, it's not really me, because I'm not into physics or maths and all that kind of stuff. But because it felt possible and it felt doable back then, so I did. And so I would actually urge anyone who's more on the arts side that if you feel, no, that wouldn't be for me, audio engineering, actually it can be, if you put a lot of work in. I did a lot of MOOC courses on Coursera in sound design, sound engineering, also music production, because that also does come into it as well. Yeah, and basically since then I've been performing audio drama and audiobooks, but also producing and writing. And again, I think very much like Chris said, it's that whole realization that as an actor, certainly you're waiting around, kind of like, am I going to get this audition? You can just write the role and then actually bring a team together that you enjoy working with. It's fantastic.
Yeah, if you have the writing talent that Fiona does, which is awesome, by the way. Some of us are a little more embarrassed in that space.
Thanks.
Emily, what was your formative experience? What got you into audio drama?
Well, I mean, I'm still pretty new in the audio drama space. I feel like the total noob here. But I've got I grew up listening to audio drama, so I was raised on the Hitchhiker's Guide original radio production, to the point that I know it pretty much word for word. So really imbibed it. And then every day listening to, like, my mum listened to The Archers religiously. And so I pretty much knew the audio drama format. And then Chris Gregory of the Alternative Stories and Fake Realities podcast got in touch early last year and said, hey, do you want to, I've read a couple of your short stories. Do you want to write something for the podcast, maybe? And I was like, well, yeah, sure. I mean, you don't say no to an invitation like that. It's a really interesting thing to even think of doing. And obviously I was writing my books at the time, so I had all of the characters and story down, and he said it would be good to do something to do with your book. So I went for prequels, and I wrote the script and I sent it over to him, and he liked it. And obviously the years that I spent listening and really listening, imbibing audio drama helped with that. And knowing the characters inside out already, it felt like a very natural progression for me. So, yeah.
So it's somewhat strange, really, in that my take on this is a little bit different. I think I was 5 or 6, and my uncle Rob, who unfortunately passed away, he had one of those wall stereos You know, those kind of, the whole side of the house was just this massive speakers and blah. And he used to say about how, you know, he'd put Top Gun on the telly and put these massive headphones on and just watch Top Gun and the jets taking off and, you know. And he, I was there one afternoon, and I think actually I lived there for about a year while my parents were switching houses. And so one afternoon he put a record player on and put on War of the Worlds. And it was a massive changing experience for me because I didn't know what to do with my eyes. You know, I had the movie, you know, in my head, but I didn't know what to do with my eyes. I didn't know whether to shut my eyes, whether I had to keep looking at my uncle and going, yeah, I'm really enjoying myself, or what I was supposed to do. So I didn't know what to do with myself, which I thought was, you know, was interesting. And then, you know, I didn't do anything with that. But then we went to university, Chris and I. And we went to university together, as many people who've listened to us drone on in the past will know. And I got a bit of a, prior to going to university, I'd been composing music and doing stuff for stage. So the keyboard that features here, that particular keyboard that is sat here at the moment, which is yeah, it's from 1994, so it still works and it's still being used. That keyboard was the keyboard that I did all my my stuff for my A levels on, and then we were making films, and I got a bit of a reputation for being the person who could sort the sound out, because I don't know if Chris remembers, the first films we made on SVHS, everybody's audio was terrible. It was all really low, and so I would take it home and get my mini disc recorder and record it to mini disc and boost the volume and then bring it back to our terrible Acorn based editing studio, and for some reason I could fix the audio, and I seem to be rather good at syncing as well, getting it so that the lips match up. I seem to have lost that talent now, because as people will notice in some of the presentations for the audio readings yesterday, for the author readings rather yesterday, my lip syncing wasn't so good. But anyway, that aside, so and since that point I've been collecting a sound library, and you know, then later on Chris decided to do some audio drama, and he asked me for some music, and you know, and I started to put some stuff together, and it's kind of nice in a way not to be the writer of the story in some respects. I mean, I loved writing Lave Revolution, but the audio version feels like it isn't mine, and that's not a criticism of Chris at all. That's actually delightful, because it feels like it isn't mine. It feels like somebody has come in and created something that's 10 times better than what I put in a book. So yeah, I think you know, it's quite nice to just be in the music niche, as it were, in that regard. So yeah, so these obviously, you know, everybody's coming at this from very diverse angles. How do you all approach your work with audio and audiobooks? Which aspect would you say you're involved in most, or which is the richest aspect for you? That doesn't necessarily mean the most lucrative, although it's up to you if you decide to you know, to take the question that way. But you know, which is the part of the process that you value? Who'd like to go first? I think Chris went first last time, so should we go in reverse? Emily, what do you think?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm going to follow on from your point there, that collaboration. I think that some writers of novels are actually quite precious about how their novels are interpreted when it comes to audio drama. And I myself, I get really excited by it. So my scripts, Chris Gregory has said, are actually very pared down, because I'm like, well, you know, I've done my bit, I've done the words, you go have some fun, and the actors can do their thing, and they're the experts. And I get really excited by how it's interpreted and built on. And yeah, okay, it might not be what I imagined explicitly, but it can be better. And sometimes I'm like, well, you know, I could put all of these directions in and try to explain exactly how I imagined it and exactly how I visualized it. But that's taking away from all of this expertise, which is now at my disposal, basically, to make this thing even greater, and to, you know, like make everyone feel part of the process, which is what it's all about. And yeah, I mean, I don't know, I did some theatre work back when I was, you know, like early on, and sort of the process of that and the interpretation side of things when you're the performer and not necessarily the writer. Yeah, I mean, I'm not precious basically, and I love it. I love what other people bring to it. So
Fiona?
Yeah, actually, really similar to Emily. Mine's very divided because part of it I do audiobooks, which are more pared down than the elite audiobooks. So they are just literally just the narration without music, without effects or cue effects, that kind of thing. And so quite a lot of the time I'm stuck in a booth, kind of talking to the wall all by myself for hours. And in a way, it's quite nice. You know, you can work that around life and it works really well. But I do really love collaborating with the audio drama world, and there is something very special about it. There was something, we did a live show quite recently up in Birmingham, and it was quite incredible. I don't know, it just crystallized it all for me that we went into the venue, and every single person who was involved in it, the first thing they did was, "Oh, hi, can I help? What can I do?" And there was someone sort of like screwing in, you know, microphones, someone else doing this. And everyone, there's this whole kind of culture, really, that everyone pitches in, everyone helps out, everyone wants the show to be the best thing it can be. And that really does kind of, that seems to be the thing in the whole community, that you put something forward and there seem to be no end of people wanting to help give their expertise and come together, and it's just really lovely feel. Yeah.
Kareem?
Well, I mean, I'm primarily an actor these days. I have directed occasionally, and I hope to direct again. But my son's been growing up, so that's taken an awful lot of my time. And the acting has, and of course, the last 2 years have not been great for getting together with other people, at least in a physical space. But my experiences of acting and with part of this is yes, the community in the audio drama community in general is an incredibly warm and supportive community on the whole. There are always outliers in any group of people, and it's one of those things whereby, from an actor's perspective, one of the things I gain out of it is the sheer diversity of roles I can play and the number of roles I can play in a year. You know, I don't do audiobooks; they're long form, and they take they're the marathon running equivalent of audio. But doing, I can be playing a pixie one day, or a dragon the next, or Hans Walden another day, etc. As a stage actor, because of my physicality, I would never get to do all those kind of different things. But as a voice actor, I can do whatever people want me to do, and I find that marvelously creatively satisfying, and just great fun, to be honest, as well. So there you go.
Chris? Can he?
Sorry, there we go. Yeah, I mean, there's two different sides to it. I mean, in terms of what I do personally, obviously the biggest part of the job is post-production. I mean, whether that's an audio drama because you're having to pull different audio elements together and kind of make them all work in what either sounds like a very natural, or in a sense, you know, similar to kind of filmmaking construction way. Whereas like with the audiobooks, I mean, during the kind of pandemic stuff, I've very much gone on to reading audiobooks myself and then editing them. But to give people an idea of, you know, the difference in time that's involved in the two jobs, reading the book is pretty much a real-time process. It's a little bit longer because you make mistakes, you take breaks, you know, the pace isn't quite the same. But it's generally real time. Whereas, you know, when you're doing when I'm doing post-production on an audiobook, it's anywhere between 6 to 8 minutes per hour for kind of, you know, finished output. So it's, you know, most of the job is sitting at my computer, you know, chopping up bits of audio and doing that sort of thing. I think the part that I really value, though, and I think this was a thing for me early on, because I sort of always have the ability when I'm writing scripts, I can hear exactly in my head as I'm writing it how I want it to sound. And I think when I first came to Escape Velocity, I had a tendency to try and force the actors to say certain lines in ways as I'd imagined them. And actually, one of the things that I really enjoy about doing audio drama is what an actor brings to your lines. I mean, once you've written a script and given it over to somebody, you actually, and I should say this only really applies to sort of, good actors. But I mean, once you give a good performer, your script and the character, and they take it on, you actually get a lot more back from it if you let them bring their own take to the character and the way they sound and that sort of thing. So, I mean, that's the thing that I really value and miss during this kind of lockdown process. And I also particularly love, I really do like getting multiple characters in to record their dialogue together, because if you can get people doing scenes together rather than, piecemeal, which is what a lot of, online audio drama collaboration does tend to be, it's so great to really feel those characters kind of riffing together. And also particularly, I mean, I'm sure Kareem will back this up, but when you're in the studio with an actor, let's be honest, from those that perform slightly lesser than others, it's wonderful to be in a recording situation with an actor who is a lot better than you, because it raises your game hugely. I mean, I remember we did the Chaos Reborn audio drama and we had Andy Seacombe in the studio, and Andy Seacombe was just brilliant. And it was such a pleasure to be able to kind of, record some lines with him. And the other guy, Steve, that we had in was just, really chuffed to be recording with an actor of, Andy's caliber. And yeah, that's just, you can feel it when the kind of level of talent in the studio goes up and everybody gets better. And it's just, yeah, it's a wonderful thing to give over your words and hear other people kind of bring it to life. But yeah, that's the short part of the process.
So let's move on to discussion point 3, and I think actually Kareem's probably going to be the best person to start on this one, specifically because of the approach as an actor, kind of picking up from what Chris has said. You're obviously going to be seeing quite a lot of scripts, quite a lot of things that people are bringing across to you. So are there any, if you were talking to somebody who wanted to make a start in this, thought they could write some audio, maybe thought they could write a story, maybe it would be best in audio, are there any particular pieces of advice or rules or guides or things that you would say, try to make sure you do this rather than do that?
Okay. From an actor's perspective, when drawing the characters, don't just rely on the script. Please, if you can, give us a sort of dramatis personae, a little thumbnail paragraph of the character. I mean, yes, we can read the whole script and we can get what we can out of the script, but life would be a lot easier if we had a bit more of a backstory itself for you. I mean, in the theatre, we workshop scenes till they're blue in the face, and we have the time to do that. If we're doing audio drama, we don't have that kind of time. Times are short, money's short, etc., etc. So we're typically sort of reading the script and going. We may do a prep read first to make notes, etc., etc. But if you can give us a thumbnail sketch of the character, their history to this point, why they are the way they are, and a rough idea of the way you see the character being with an example, not expecting an exact duplicate, because that way it gives the actors room to put their own spin on it. That helps immensely. And at the bare minimum, 3 keywords that you would use to describe a character. That's if I just get a script and nothing else. I mean, maybe if it's 5 lines and a big thing, and the writer doesn't have that much time to describe this character in detail, give me 3 keywords to tee off of for that character, and that will give me a grounding from which I can then launch my performance. Because in any production, yes, you have the lead characters, etc., but the superstructure of the piece is also all the supporting characters as well. So they have to have a life and a truth to them to be delivered as well. And if you can give us those bare minimums, it gives us something to launch from. And yeah, that's best from my perspective.
Fiona, what would you say would be the kind of advice that you would give to somebody who is perhaps approaching this medium?
I would say that the audience, bear in mind that your audience, your listeners, are really working hard while they're listening, because hearing things and only having that audio cue is quite hard. It's abstract. So the thing that I would say is, when you're writing a scene, if you have a scene and it's got 6 characters in it and only 3 of them are talking for 2 minutes, the other 3 are just going to vanish. So you're better off either writing scenes with small amounts of characters at a time, or having interjections coming in quite regularly, saying each other's names a little bit more often than you would in normal life.
Yeah.
Again, just to help your audience to kind of lift. Otherwise it can be quite hard work, I think. That'd be my advice.
Chris, I think that Fiona stole your line there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, not at all. No, I thought it was incredibly amusing. So the invisible characters line, Chris, I think Fiona stole your line.
No, it's absolutely fine. I was actually thinking, it reminded me when she was saying about characters kind of using each other's names more often than they would. It reminds me of a comment my friend always used to make about the X-Files, that for 2 people who work together every single day, they use each other's names an awful lot. Yeah. But yeah, no, I mean, I totally agree. You've got to, if in audio drama, if you don't hear it, it doesn't happen. And if a person doesn't speak, they're not there. Unless they're kind of, the patient in the bed kind of, character. Not now. And so I'm having one of these BBC interview moments of a child appearing in the background. So the thing I'd say, I mean, and this is the advice I'm always going to give to anyone starting writing audio drama: don't rely on sound effects. Don't rely on sound effects to tell your story. Don't rely on sound effects to give across information. A lot of the time, people don't know what they're hearing without context. And actually, this is a really valuable thing, because it means that when you're making sound effects and things, you can substitute all kinds of other daily objects and things like that. Like, the famous thing of, a person walking in snow. If you get yourself an iceberg lettuce and sit and punch it, you'll get kind of snowy footprints. But I mean, that's the point, is people quite often, when people hear a sound, they're associating it with what they already know to be happening.
Yeah.
Oh, come on then. Come and see here. So that's the thing I say. I mean, I got, as a sound designer, particularly when I'm working on other people's scripts, I had one the other day, which was great. It came up in the script, and it was a sound effect of global temperatures rising over a number of years. And I thought, I like to think I'm pretty good at what I do, but that one, I just thought, I'm gonna skip it.
No, you get one of those whistles that goes up, right, with the slider,
Yeah,
Swanee whistle.
I thought of as well.
That's absolutely thing. No, but I mean, seriously, I mean, you've got to. I mean, essentially, I would almost go so far as to say you've got to make sure your script works without sound effects. Like, if the story works without sound effects, it's going to sound great with sound effects. Now, there are some exceptions. There are some sound effects that add lovely things to it. I mean, escape velocity wouldn't be escape velocity without someone going to hyperspace every 3 minutes. And I think the other thing as well is, not to, just not don't rely on, I think it's very easy to try and rely on technique and technical tricks to tell stories. But at the end of the day, it's in the characters and in the dialogue, and that's where 99% of the story lives.
The challenge is accepted, by the way. In a minute, I'll see what I can find, and we'll go for global temperatures rising. Emily, what advice would you give in terms of writing for audio and sort of thinking about starting out in terms of doing this?
Well, one of the things that I did for my first audio drama, because it was preceding books, and this world is incredibly important to me, and because I was doing it all in COVID, so I've never been in a studio with the actors, but having done theatre work and stuff, I know that kind of environment, and I know how important context is. And to follow on from Kareem, what Kareem said, is that what I did was I made a small video of me talking about the characters for each of the actors. So just 5 minutes, like 3 to 5 minutes of me just saying, this is who they are. But there was something about the chat and just getting out my view on them and getting some context across, like, this is where they've been, this is where they're going, this is who they are in relation to the other characters and how their personality plays off the other characters in time. That I did, and apparently they found it very useful. And we've also been doing, before going into production, Zoom calls with the entire cast. So for half an hour, just sitting down and discussing the script and giving the actors enough time to sort of ask some questions about it. And just giving, because I was really concerned that the actors wouldn't feel supported in portraying the characters, and these characters are really important to me, so I wanted them to do a good job. You know, it was in self-interest, really. So I really wanted them to get it, and yeah, so that was a really good thing to do. Yeah, just that. And oh yeah, the other thing that I think is that you should be able to stick your characters in a cardboard box and have them still be interesting, and people still want to know what happens next between them. And I guess this plays into the don't rely on sound effects and things. And even in my novel writing, character comes first all the time. And maybe that's why it translates to audio drama so well, because I'm not just going on and on and on and doing a tourist guide of my world that I've built. It's all about the characters.
Character and plot. I mean, one, I suppose, the key thing to describe that is the need for the story to always move forward in every scene. So something has to happen in every scene. Something has to be driven forward in every scene, because it's such an intimate medium. It's here and it's in here. It's a unique medium for you to be potentially so in the emotional state of the show. Okay, people listen everywhere. People listen in cars. People listen with going for a walk, etc. as well. But if you think about the ideal listening scenario as well, someone can be listening in a good scenario and just being completely absorbed. So
yeah, I think, I mean, there's a Mark P. Wolf talks about this in a different context. He wrote the book on world building and you know, theories of subcreation, I think is the subtitle. But there's one specific set of phrases that he talks about, which is low narrative resolution and high narrative resolution. And the low narrative resolution is basically you giving people a character summary, you know, giving them a sketch, giving them an idea of, well, I think this person's a bit like this, or they're the 3 words about them, or something else, you know, so to use all the context that everybody's kind of said. And then the high resolution is when you want to do show not tell, or, you know, another dramatized context. So in an audio sense, it's all tell in a way, isn't it? But you know what I mean in terms of it being show. It is the idea of it being rich, and the idea of it being explored in real time, and the actions actually happening within the text, and so on and so forth. So yeah, you know, I think that probably gives a nice way of kind of mapping this into, you know, into other boring literary theory. There we are. You know, that kind of works. All right.
One other quick point.
Yeah.
Because we are working in audio, and because you are working potentially with actors from around the world, and especially if you're working in genre fiction, pronunciation guides.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes. I had to do that. I had to do lists.
Yeah.
Even in audio as well.
Yeah. Even to the games company that actually, you know, owns the copyright of your book, you know, or at least owns the original brand. You have to make sure that they understand that it's Lave, not Larvae. You know, and even the guy that wrote the original game, no, it's not Larvae, David Braben, it's Lave.
For 35 years, it was Larve to me, not Larvae.
It's Lave. You know, you were all wrong. I was right. Okay,
DSO, for goodness sake, it's DSO.
Yeah. So
it's a good point as well about putting them in an audio file, because sometimes if you say, oh, this name rhymes with bath, and then of course half your cast are doing it from different ways. So
yeah.
That moves us nicely on to discussion point 4, which is that we are working in this incredibly imaginative medium. We are, you know, having the opportunity to create this amazing picture in the mind of the reader, which is obviously going to be slightly subjective and slightly different for every reader. But, you know, let's peek behind the curtain slightly. What's the strangest, most different behind the scenes experience compared to what's actually, you know, the presented experience within audio that you've ever had when you were working on an audio piece? Who'd like to start on that?
Dare I tell you, I'll start, and I'll probably lower the tone for everybody. I mean, recording Foley, is always kind of fun. I did one where I had obviously, I had a kind of sex/kissing scene in a thing, and obviously you don't necessarily get your actors to kiss on set for you. Not usually, not unless I really like the look. But I had this brilliant idea. I was like, I know where there's loads of kissing, porn. And for a long time, I was trying to get kind of intimacy sound effects from porn clips. And actually, they don't work as well as sound effects as you might think they do. So I'll be honest, most of the time when you hear kissing in any of my audio work, it's me and my hand, because I can make that sound the way I need it. Like honestly, with lockdown, a lot of my dating life has been me and my hand. So I don't see why the kissing should be any different. I mean, the other fun ones I've done is a lot of the time, if you hear like really visceral gore in my stuff, that's me with what was left of Sunday's roast chicken and a tin of chopped tomatoes.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. One of the elite books got very messy at one point. Someone got sliced in half with a meat cutter, so I needed it to be.
Wasn't me.
Wasn't me. It wasn't you.
I didn't write that. I didn't write that.
And the other weird one, and I'm sure Kareem will appreciate this as an actor, sometimes in audio, your actors struggle to reproduce the physicality of a line. And what I mean specifically by this, there was a scene in Escape Velocity where May, played by Amy Timms, was meant to be being kind of dragged away, and we couldn't quite get the right physicality in her voice. So I said to her, look, do you mind if we do something? I'm gonna put my arm around your waist, if that's all right. We checked it all out, it was all fine. And what she basically did, I said, you try and record the scene. I'm gonna try and drag you away from the microphone. Don't let me drag you away from the microphone. You've got to do the scene. So we did that. So there was this moment of me kind of pulling on this actor, trying to get them out of the booth while they were sort of yelling the lines. And, it worked. It's not, you don't normally get into physical stuff when you're doing audio drama, but every now and again, it helps.
Yeah, what kind of behind the scenes experiences that sort of pierce the imaginative bubble can you think of that you've been a part of?
Yeah, a bit like Chris, I think doing Foley has been fun. I had some teeth that came alive and popped out of someone's mouth. So that involved a lot of peas in pods and some marbles. That was fun. But actually, to put something in on behalf of Sarah, because when she was doing Anyone for Coffee, she recorded that on location. And she was doing that sort of field recording. And I think they actually did beat up a bush in it and sort of ripping someone's garden apart basically while they were celebrating. And I know as well that there were a couple of scenes where they were sort of lying down talking to each other, and if you do actually lie, again a bit like Chris was saying, it changes the physicality of the voice and it actually sounds like you're lying down. So I think there was a lot of sort of microphone dangling and that kind of stuff there. So but sadly I missed that, but I think they had a whale of a time.
Emily, any particular experiences that you wanted to share?
Well, as I say, all of mine has been done in isolation, but I have my actors, I know that they I've done some battle scenes and they've sprinted up and down the stairs 10 times before recording their lines and done some push-ups or something to make them a little bit out of breath, which is fun to hear about. I think that I really want to get in the studio. It would be amazing to be there and to be live and be able to just sort of experience that. I would say, one of the experiences, which is probably quite universal, is just hearing back multiple actors reading your lines and calling into question your own writing in a way that is incredibly it's not like anything else, and hearing the same line done 25 times by different people and you're thinking, God, did I write that? Like it certainly throws into sharp relief the need for things like pronunciation guides and just more information about the character and things like that. So yeah, that's basically the extent of my experience, being all very distant. Yeah.
Kareem, is there any illusions that you would like to ruin for us?
Well, I've actually discussed this on another interview, but I'll go through this one. I think I did a show last year. Well, I'm a regular appearer on the SCP archives. Some of you may or may not be aware the SCP is a sort of horror anthology wiki where people write all kinds of stories are based around this organization that tries to manage them and save the universe, etc., 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 etc. One of them, SCP-3001, Red Reality, I play the protagonist, who is a chap who's been trapped in a sort of nether universe by some kind of science experiment going wrong, and is slowly over a period of years or time being faded out. Into his molecular integrity is dissipating. Now, when I got to recording this was 2 years ago, actually. Sorry, my apologies. This whole last year has been so easy to remember. But it was just as I was starting to extend my house. So my recording space at the back of the house, where there wasn't much noise, was being translated to my son's bedroom. And I had to go into his old bedroom temporarily, which was at the front of the house with a really rattly window and almost no sound treatment whatsoever. I hadn't found a local studio to use at that point. So as you can imagine, with this being a bus route, I had to record this kind of thing late at night with noise and cars going past and all this kind of stuff all the time. So I basically, this is a whole 1 hour show, 90% of which is my voice.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So that's at least 3.5, 4 hours of recording, because you have to do 3 versions and this and that and the other. Late at night, with cars going past on a fairly regular basis, I was so exhausted because I was getting finished like 3:30 in the morning, trying to get this thing done, that I think, shall we say, the performance that came out in the end was fairly true to what was actually happening in the script, because there was not much of my brain left. It's the 3:30, having sworn 1,700 times up, what are you doing driving past at 2 in the morning?
Can imagine the outtakes must have been amazing. Somebody sitting there, with you swearing and swearing and swearing at cars. That was probably absolutely hilarious in and of itself.
Yes, so there was that one. And if you want another one, occasionally we get to work live with other people. And I got asked to do a show last autumn. And I was recording with a producer and director in LA. And I didn't know much about this role, other than it was quite a significant one, an audio movie. They're sort of breaking into the whole audio movie space, called Unsinkable. And the publicity only came out just as I started recording with the guys, and they let me know, oh yeah, fine, you'll be working with John Malkovich. Oh.
Right.
And Thomas Brody Sangster, and Brian Cox, the actor, and list a whole slew of actors. And it's like, me trying to keep my shit together whilst doing this. Thankfully, I wasn't recording with them on the mic at the same time, just with the director and the producer. But it's like, okay, I really have to step my game up here. But that was like a brown trouser moment in uncertain terms. I'm still waiting for that to come out, by the way. Hopefully it'll come out soon. It's on IMDb if you want to look up the cast, etc. But yeah, that was...
So this then, having gone through some of the shattering of illusions, let's go to the best of the best. So if you can all have a think, are there moments, are there particular scripts, particular productions, or just even scenes, a specific circumstance in a particular piece that you would recommend as being the most innovative and influential thing that has been produced in audio? Are there any particular productions you'd suggest that people check out, or other particular people's work that you would suggest would be amazing to take a listen to? Oh, complete Zoom silence. Oh.
I can do loads, but I don't want to start. Maybe Emily this time. Oh no, she already did it on last time, didn't she?
Fiona, do you want to start?
Yeah, I can start. That was cool. I would say it's someone who doesn't necessarily get as much attention as I think they deserve. and it's Jack Kincaid does Edict Zero FIS, which I think, in terms of how epic you can take a tale, it is really quite extraordinary. The detail of the world building and so on. It's a big sci-fi with lots of intrigue and bombs and exciting stuff going on. So I think in terms of size and scale and just magnificence, really, I think he's brilliant, and he does it alone.
Wow.
Yeah, and for music, I was thinking Cane and Fields. I don't know if you know that, by Oliver Morris. The music in that is really like an extra character, and at points it kind of takes over the dialogue, and it can even become slightly disorientating, but it's a very kind of visceral, emotional experience, and I would recommend. It's kind of horror, paranormal kind of thing. It's very good indeed. And the final one, if it's okay to mention a third, is one called Borderland that I heard by Sarah Woods, which is a BBC production, and it's basically a kind of a dystopian Greater Britain has happened, and it's somebody trying to escape as a refugee to Ireland across the sea, but it's all done from the viewpoint of the refugee, and so everything is happening to you as a listener, and so again it's incredibly immersive and incredibly sort of quite scary and powerful. So yeah, I think it's quite cool.
Kareem?
If I can say one I'm in, because if you like psychedelia, I would point people at What's the Frequency by forgotten the producer name. Anyway, look up What's the Frequency podcast, as in the audio drama, not What's the Frequency with Mark Murren. That's a psychedelic noir horror comedy where I play a noir detective with a spunky sidekick, and it has all kinds of funky sound effects and really sort of mind-bending stuff, and that's a real sort of advanced level audio drama to listen to. Other ones I think are really worth listening to. I mean, if you haven't heard Wooden Overcoats, do so. Wooden Overcoats is simply top level, A grade, A plus. No one can beat it, really. Even sitcom about two competitive funeral directors on a small Channel island, and it is brilliantly written, fantastically acted, and hilariously funny in parts, and terribly poignant and heart-wrenching and gut-punching at various points as well. Some of the best writing. David K. Barnes, if you ever want to study his work as a writer, he's brilliant, as well as the producer doing a great job as well. David is now working as a script editor for Big Finish as well, so some of the Big Finish shows he's involved in. I could carry on for hours, but I'll leave it at that for the moment.
I second that. Wooden Overcoats is amazing.
Well, do you want to carry on there, Chris, and give us your recommendations?
Yeah, can do. I suppose a few different things for a few different reasons. I mean, I'll start with one that's a little bit self-congratulatory, and we'll get that out of the way. I really liked what I did with the ending of Series 3 of Escape Velocity, because I've always used, because Escape Velocity was my learning area, I've always used Escape Velocity to try things in audio that I weren't sure if they'd work, because it didn't matter if it didn't work. It was just me releasing a podcast. And there was a thing that if you watch shows by like TV shows by like the CW, there's this thing that they tend to do like at the end of an episode, almost sort of epilogue, where they have like a piece of pop music and it kind of cuts to characters not actually saying anything, but it's like a montage. And I really wanted to do that, but obviously in the audio format, you've got to have dialogue. So I wrote this ending to Series 3 that had this idea of this piece of music that was interspersed with little short scenes of the characters. And I was just personally really pleased, with the way that attempting to move what was largely a visual storytelling device into audio, really worked. So we'll get the self-congratulatory bit out of the way. That was just something I was really pleased with. In terms of in terms of format, I mean, people don't talk about it as much now, but it's easy to forget how influential it was. But Welcome to Night Vale, I think, remains a really clever format. the idea of telling a story about this weird kind of paranormal, paranoid town entirely through the format of like a local radio host, and the sort of letters that get written, and reportage on what's going on outside the studio. I just think, whether you like the story or not, it was such a clever conceit to come to audio drama that way, to take something that was already established as an audio format, i.e. a DJ talking to their audience, and then using that to kind of subtly start to communicate that not all is right with the world. I think that had a big impact on me in terms of the way that you can do storytelling without necessarily having, a sort of script full of characters per se. I'll probably leave it there.
Emily?
The other one I was going to mention. Just because I love the writing and just because it's amazing, the latest series of John Finnemore's Souvenir Program. Normally, John Finnemore's Souvenir Program is a sketch comedy show, and it's one of the funniest sketch comedy shows ever written. This year, I suspect probably because they haven't been able to have live audiences, they've changed the format. So now, each episode starts off, it focuses around a particular character in a family, and it's done in that Memento way, where you start in the present and then the next scene kind of explains what just happened, and then the next scene, and it goes backwards and backwards and backwards in time. And then the next episode of the series will be somebody else in the family or someone that's related to them in some way. And it's just wonderful. I mean, I wouldn't even go so far as to describe it as laugh out loud funny. It's not like belly laugh funny, but it's so clever and so endearing and so and such a wonderful way to explore these families from different viewpoints. And there's this amazing conceit that runs through it around. It starts off with this band playing a gig, and they're talking about they're going to do this song. And it's supposed to be A Nightingale Sang in Berkeley Square, but the drummer's got this idea that the song has a chorus that goes, and the dog goes bow wow, and they're all looking at him like, that's not how. And he's like, no, it is. I remember it from my childhood. And over the course of the series, you realise where this thing's come from, and it's just, that's definitely worth listening to.
Emily, what would you say were the innovative and influential things that you've experienced in audio?
Well, obviously I was sort of raised on Hitchhiker's Guide. I've talked about that. I would say that anyone sort of wanting to get an introduction to audio who hasn't really looked at it before, I would say subscribing to the Alternative Stories and Fake Realities podcast is really good, because it's like a smorgasbord of different forms of audio drama telling, and they have spoken word, poetry, straight sci-fi. I mean, every season they've got 2 sci-fi pieces, but they also have loads of other stuff. They've got environmental pieces. They feature authors who are not that well known through to authors who are really, really established. And it's just a great way to sort of get an overview of different styles. In terms of like innovation and things, like I will say there's one moment, I'm gonna like shout about my own thing here too, but there's a moment in my own one called The Bomb where there's a moment of silence, and there's something about silence in audio drama that can be incredibly powerful. And because it's audio and everything's reliant on audio, the temptation is to put noise and dialogue all the way through and not shut up and just have constant noise. But then that means that the occasional moment of silence is very powerful. And I've had listeners sort of say to me, that moment of silence when no one's saying anything and you just get this idea that something catastrophic is happening. And that can be incredibly powerful. So it worked.
Okay, fantastic. So if I was a new audio writer or a writer who was looking to get into this, a very quick piece of advice that you'd give somebody that was looking to either to write something, to become a producer, to become a director, they want to make an audio drama. What's the quick piece of advice that you've learned along the way that you would suggest to them?
Do it.
do it would be the advice. Okay, yeah.
Start, basically, yeah.
Start.
And
Yeah.
keep going.
Yeah, sounds good. Any other advances on that?
Check out quite a lot. There's a lot of stuff out there. There's things like the Audio Drama Writers Independent Toolkit you can listen to. There are various podcasts on all aspects of it. So go and have a look at those and get loads of advice.
Join the Audio Drama Hub on Facebook.
Yeah.
Literally anybody who's everybody pretty much in audio drama around the world is a member of that group. We have 4,500 members and counting at the moment.
It is interesting that the community is kind of evolving, almost in front of our eyes, isn't it? Really, in the last few years, it's quite interesting to see that, that people in the, who are working on audio drama are kind of, they end up on panels like this and go, oh, I know you, and stuff like that.
The thing that's blown me away is how much is being created now. I mean, when I first started, we'd have like one new show every now and then. With that, I think Cambridge Geek, John, is tracking every new audio drama that comes out. I think we're now to 7 new shows a week.
Wow.
It's ridiculous. You just can't keep up anymore. And they're all kinds, literally anything your heart could possibly desire is now being produced because people have had the idea and they want to get it out. That low barrier to entry is a fantastic benefit. Curse as well, but then people learn. I've seen producers start off with stuff that's a bit ropey, and after 4 or 5 shows, their stuff is brilliant. That's the thing. You can see these people produce and evolve over in front of your ears, within your ears, in front of your eyes. Anyway,
and I think as well, with the sort of diversity thing, I think if you're listening to this and you're thinking, well, I'm not the kind of person that does that, you are exactly the kind of person who should be doing it, because we need stories out there from everywhere, and this is the perfect place to do it.
Especially non-English voices or me being an Arab, I'm sort of an outlier, especially in the UK audio drama scene. The US market has a lot more people of color and stuff like this, but it's still a very, very pale environment. If you're a person of color or a person with a different background, we knew stories from other people's things. One thing I've liked a lot from Disney's latest set of films that have come out, they're all stories from other areas, from Asia or other things. It's lovely hearing new stories, fresh takes on entirely different worlds.
Okay. Any other advice anybody would suggest?
I would say close your eyes and listen to the world and to everything. I mean, even watching a movie, just try closing your eyes while you're watching the movie and seeing how much of that translates. And, try closing your eyes and try listening and see what happens and see how you do things maybe differently, or see how you use that sound or how you describe that sound, or
Brilliant. Okay, I'm gonna let you have the last word on that there, Emily. I think that's probably the most poignant thing that that we could probably close on. The only thing I am going to say, and I've decamped myself into this loft to make sure that that we had an opportunity to do this. The one thing I do want to just finish on is to give people a bit of a chance to see how a kind of, if somebody's doing an audio piece, somebody's doing an audio drama, they're writing it, they're directing it, they're producing it, they give stuff, and how I approach it when I'm looking at doing the music. So Chris well knows that what he's done in the past is he just gives me a bit of a brief. So let's take the one that we had earlier. All right. So you'll notice here in the last hour, I've not turned round. Okay. So I haven't gone and prepped anything, but Chris did say, what was it? Global temperatures rising, wasn't it?
It was, it was sound effect of global temperatures rising gradually over a number of years.
Okay. Give me 1 minute. I think I've got something for you here.
Is it a Swanee whistle?
No. I think we'll go for. Here we go. We want to go out of Rhythm Suite. No, it's Rhythm Suites. Or was it Rhythm Suites? No, I think it's in this one. Here we are. Yeah, this will do. Right.
I am so here for this.
Complex pads, risers. Here we are. Risers. 15-second riser. All effects. Yeah, that'll do. Okay, so let's bring that one up. Okay, so this is This is from Gravity. Now, I haven't been working with soft synths a lot. Most people, well, if anybody knows, I'm a bit behind the times. Most of my stuff is hard synths. So what you can see over here in front of you is my Roland JV. There's a Roland XV underneath it. So those are my hard synthesizers, and that's all rigged up to my sound effects drive. So there's, I can basically sample from any of that. But then over on this side, over behind me, is my soft synths computer, which is set up like another track, another channel, So Gravity is one of my soft synths synthesizers. Let's just have a listen, see if I haven't tried anything, but this is a 15-second riser, all effects. So we'll try a few examples. Not bad.
Yeah, brilliant. Perfect. It starts at 25 degrees Celsius, ends at 31 degrees Celsius. Perfect. Absolutely. Yeah, genius.
How's that one?
I like that one better.
Yeah, I think so.
Got more depth, like you get more jeopardy from the rising temperatures.
If it goes more discordant as you go up the range.
That one's pretty nasty. Yeah, that one's a bit light. See if we can boost a bit of volume here and try.
And then just what you need is someone over the top just going, whew, it's a bit warm. Is it hotter than it was yesterday? I think it's hotter than it was yesterday.
Or some rain or something else. But, typically when we're looking at doing music, what we're trying to do, I mean, I say we, I mean me, essentially what I'm trying to do is just trying to capture something of what people are looking for in the mood. So very similar to the character idea. If I get a bit of a brief, if I get a bit of an idea of, well, what kind of feeling, sensation are you looking for? So before this weekend, Grant said to me, can we do a Lavecon theme tune? So I kind of had to think about that, and I had to think about what are we trying to get in the mood. And the start of the piece that I came up with was actually quite minor key and quite down. And I was thinking, oh man, come on, you're going to run a convention. Everybody's happy to see people. You can't have it, So then it went to strong chords, in terms of what's there. But I mean, immediate go-tos are when Emily said to me she liked Vangelis. So immediately. I can do that all day, that's easy, we can drop down to something a little bit subtler, which works.
Getting very Hitchhikers now.
Yeah, as soon as you get the modulation wheel in, then that one works much better.
Ooh.
I can feel the total perspective vortex from here.
But that was just the pitch bend, You got to hold it. You can't let it go down while the echo's going away. In terms of,
I love how you say this is easy. You're supposed to be saying this is incredibly complicated. And,
well, you see, and the other thing, and I think I'll finish with this. I am, or actually no, there's one more. We'll show you. I'll do another quick soft synth. This is amazing. I still haven't figured out how to use this yet. Let's just see if we can set this one up. See if it'll load quickly. Come on.
I love this. I could watch an hour of this.
Right. So I've got something called action strings, right? So I love orchestral, kind of driving orchestral music. I think driving orchestral music really does stuff in, and then I found this, I kind of put these things together and, and basically, ended up writing loads of orchestral music where I'm tapping on the keys really fast to try and get that kind of, driving violins and what have you. And then I find this, which does this. Hang on, let's get it. This is action strings, which basically got a whole set of patterns I can just change. So we can go from and that rhythmic pattern I can alter. So I can completely change. So if we want to go for something different.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
When's the album coming out, Alan?
As a cellist, I'm just feeling the RSI.
and the thing with that's all live, live captured. So the studio that produced that particular soft synth, it's all real capture, and then they just give it to you, and you basically you can sit there and play around with it, and you play the tempo, you can play the pattern. So if we pick another one, just change it again, and I can mix those in real time. Yeah, I know, right? I can mix those in real time, so I can actually mix them together. If I play two-handed, I've got one that will control which riff is happening, and the other one will play the riff. So you can mix.
So you can play the orchestra basically.
Yeah.
When you're doing this, do you listen to the audio drama while you're doing the sound?
It depends. I mean, some people. It depends how we're working. I mean, quite a lot of the time, it's people just give me a brief, and I just write something, and it's quite general, because then if they're the director, then they can fit how they think it works. Because half the time when I'm working with Chris will work out what he needs, and he will have a vision as to where he needs it. He will set up what he wants, and just gives me a bit of a guide. So I just go and put something together, and then he can then edit it. He can then work it into what he wants it to be, rather than me trying to absolutely nail exactly what he's after.
And and just to add to that, because it's a cyclic process, because what we've tried to do in the past is I've edited a scene without music, and then Alan's gone away and scored music that fits. But actually, when you then take your musicless scene and put music to it, it changes the pace of the scene. So you'd end up going back and forth with, and I know this is what they do in a lot of movie scoring. They do this stuff and then they record it, and then they're like, we've made an edit. John Williams, can you give us another 2 beats in the middle of that bar, kind of thing? And it's it's much better, I think, to what I really like about what Alan does with his writing is that he'll give me a piece of music that has different sections in it. So I think, like, particularly early on in Escape Velocity, when we didn't have much of a library, but like Alan could give me like a 3.5 piece of music, but because it has different sections to the piece, I can sometimes I can take like a 2-bar section, and that 2-bar section can underscore an entire scene just because it's the right vibe.
And then you went back, Chris. You found a piece of music. Do you remember? You went back and you found a piece that you hadn't used, and it was this.
Yeah.
I'd done a piece using Letter from Pat from which is a patch on the Roland.
Yeah.
And I'd just done it in between 2 pieces, and because you hadn't used it, I'll just turn it up a bit. Because you hadn't used it, you went back and thought, I can use that for that.
Yeah.
It was, and that's just it's a kind of plinky plonk guitar with a little bit of strings behind it, but it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's got a lovely echo to it.
You're reminding me of an ex of mine went to a Fatboy Slim concert, and there was one point in the gig he just pressed one button on a keyboard, and then he just sat on the edge of the stage and just lit up. And the song just played itself.
You well know I hate performing, right? In terms of music, I am the worst music performer. I mean, we know from the original Lavecon, I utterly hate it.
Lavecon, when we did that.
Oh God, I hate it.
That was amazing.
I hate it. But there's, if I can press a button, then I'm fine. I'm entirely good. And I am a frustrated guitarist, which I can't play the guitar at all. So as soon as I got this, as soon as I could do that right on this setup, then I was done, right? I didn't need anything else, because suddenly I can pretend that I'm as good as I always wanted to be on the guitar. That's
I have a similar problem. I mean, that first Lavecon, the idea would be that Alan would play somebody's music and I'd kind of improvise on the guitar over the top. And I'm also a frustrated guitarist because I'm not nearly as good as I think I am. And as soon as we went from daytime lights to show lights in the dark, I couldn't see the guitar neck.
Yeah.
I can't play if I can't see the notes. Not that good.
But there were a couple of questions. I can see that Grant's labeled up a question in relation to the software. So, the ones that I'm demonstrating here were Complete 13, spelled with a K, from Native Instruments. And the specific plugin with that we did, the riser, which with temperatures rising, that was Gravity. So that's by Heaviosity, which they all work with something called Contact, which is the kind of player device that everything works on. But I would stress those are quite new and quite sort of expensive synthesizers. This kit that's up here, most of the kit I've got here is old. The Roland JV that I use for pretty much most of my stuff came out in like 1994. I was working with Sarah before she was married, and one of the other people who was composing for some of the shows that we were doing, he was using one of those at that time. This is while I was back in school. My Technics keyboard, 1993, 1994. The XV that I've got here is sort of in the early 2000s. The mixing software I use is really old and really rubbish. Loads of other people use Ableton or Logic or something. I use Magic's Music Maker from 2015. It's not even the latest one. I don't like it, so I use the old one because I'm used to it. All of these things. This is the nice thing about when you're a music writer, is that actually it's not about the newest equipment, the newest stuff. It's about what sounds good to what you're trying to do. And I am reverb obsessed. I love reverb. I have to get told turn down the reverb most of the time. So that perhaps gives you a bit of an idea.
Oh, even in audio drama, reverb fixes everything.
Yeah. I mean, it fixes it in music. It's great. When you can click on something and and add that, it's fantastic. Okay. I don't think there are any other questions in the chat. I'm just having a quick look because obviously I'm trying to run 3 machines up here at the same time to try and manage anything. But I do want to say we have overrun a little bit, but we've not run into the next thing that's due up, which is Lave Radio Live. But I want to thank my guests. Hopefully people have found this informative. I've certainly learned a load, from what we've been talking about in terms of what's here. And it's going to take me probably the next hour to disassemble all the equipment that I brought upstairs to make sure you could see my face. Because usually I'm just sat here composing in the dark. But thank you so much. I think it's been absolutely tremendous. And thank you so much for sharing your experiences in terms of what we've been doing. So hopefully people have enjoyed it. And thank you all.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Been
you.
great fun.
And I'm available for requests. I can do funerals. I can do weddings. Any particular family occasions. I'm sure I could improvise some music for a christening if it was necessary.
Global
Reverb heavy funeral. Love it.
Yeah. Church organ. Yeah. I'll find something. It'll be fine.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Grant, over to you. I think we've got about 15 minutes before we're due back for Lave Radio Live. Is that right?
It does look like that might be the case. So yes, let's flip back to the program for a second while we get them set up. And don't touch that dial. We'll be back in a while. So I'm going to get catchphrases. I'm going to work on them. How are you guys for writing catchphrases? We need something suitably cheesy. Anyway, let's turn this bit off and let you get on. Thank you so much.